Good evening, everybody. This week, the first and only Black Republican Congresswoman, Mia Love, died after her long battle with brain cancer. Mia Love was only 49 years old, and tonight we're going to honor her legacy. My name is Monica Maybank, and this is the Holy Politician Podcast. On this podcast, we discuss politics, policy, and culture through the lens of truth and holiness. If you haven't subscribed, I would encourage you to do that now. I want to start with this quick clip.
The American dream isn't just my story. It isn't just your story. It's our story. It's a story of human struggle, standing up and striving for more. Our story has been told for over 200 years with small steps and giant leaps. From a woman on a bus to a man with a dream. From the bravery of the greatest generation to the innovators and entrepreneurs of today, this is our story. This is our America. This is the America we know because we built it.
Now, that was a clip from the 2012 Republican National Conference when Mitt Romney was running against Barack Obama, as Barack Obama was running for his second term as president. Mia was a conservative Republican. She was also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormon Church. So Mia Love, who represented Utah in Congress, was the first Republican Black woman to serve in the United States Congress, serving in the House from 2015 to 2019. No other Black Republican woman has served in Congress since. And this was more than 4 years, 5 years ago now. And so there have been countless Democratic Black women in Congress, but only one Republican woman to date, and that was Representative Mia Love. I want to read a quick excerpt from her obituary, which you can find online. I would encourage you to go and read it all. So, born Ledmaya Bourdieu to her Haitian immigrant parents, Jean-Maxime and Marie Bourdieu, in Brooklyn, New York, Mia was the third of three children. Voices reflecting the joy of laughter, music, Caribbean food, and a love of America filled Mia's formative years after the family moved to Connecticut. Her parents taught, exemplified, and deeply ingrained into Mia the principles of compassion, goodness, freedom, hard work, and above all, giving back. Her parents lived these principles in a way that rarely required them to use words, though Mia loved the sound of their voices. Many came to know Mia as the first Black Republican woman ever elected to the United States Congress. Others knew her as a former city council member, mayor, CNN commentator, University of Hartford graduate, theatrical performer, author, speaker, and so much more. These are all the things that Mia did, but they were not who she was or who she is. She loved to dance, paint, run, laugh, eat great food, hang with friends, learn, and serve others. For Mia, life was about what she was becoming and who she was helping more than it was about what she was doing or achieving. Family was first, last, and always for Mia. Again, you could read the rest of her obituary online. And I'm really inspired by those words. In my own life, I often struggle with not the process of becoming, but the process of actually doing and achieving. But that's a reminder for me, even in this moment, and I wasn't planning on saying this, to enjoy the journey. It's about the journey, not the end goal or not the outcome, but who you become in the process. That's a great reminder for all of us, right? So, Representative Mia Love leaves behind a husband, three children, one granddaughter. She leaves behind her parents who are still alive. And I found an interesting comment from Mia Love in 2022 about women who run that I thought was very interesting. And I've actually heard it said before in other words by other candidates that run for office, in particular, Black female candidates that run for office. This is what she said, quote, "People like the idea of women running. They do, especially a woman of color. But the efforts don't go far enough," she says. "I certainly hope that I won't be the last one," end quote. Mia only served 2 terms. That's 4 years in Congress. And in Congress, representatives serve for 2 terms, senators serve for 6. But the reality is that every year, every other year, essentially, you're fundraising. And so you have to fight for your seat constantly as a member of Congress, which could be taxing and tiring, and sometimes prevent you from really dealing with the main issues that your constituents sent you there for, especially with how toxic and dividing Congress has become. It's almost like we're watching a high school reality show when we're looking at Congress these days. So during her time in Congress, Mia joined the Congressional Black Caucus, which probably many people don't know, because the Congressional Black Caucus in the United States Congress is made up of primarily Black Democrats, right? And so I think right now there are only maybe 3 or 4 Black Republicans in Congress. And so Mia decided to join the Congressional Black Caucus because she wanted to try and get to know some of her other Black colleagues across the aisle. So she loved being a part of that caucus because it helped her build relationships with people that may have looked like her on the outside, but had different ideological perspectives on America and what good public policy was for Americans. But I actually applaud her for that. There are members of Congress now that are Black Republican that refuse to join the CBC. And granted, now it's become very divisive and toxic, and it's probably an unhealthy experience for many people that don't happen to be Democrat. However, back in her day, which was not very long ago, 10 years ago, you could still have some level of community with some members that were a part of the Congressional Black Caucus. And so during her reelection campaigns in 2018 and 2018, Mia found herself alone in the spotlight, but alone, not only as it concerned her Black colleagues in Congress, but as it relates to the Republican Party. She started to distance herself from President Donald Trump. So she didn't attend the Republican National Convention in 2016, and she said publicly that she would not vote for Trump that year. And then 2 years later, after she said that publicly, she lost re-election. So again, Congresswoman Love was only in office for 4 short years. However, she was a history maker and a trailblazer in those short 4 years. And so, because of some of her public distancing from President Donald Trump, distancing not only from his personality, but from his public policy positions, she took a big risk in doing that. Saying publicly that you're not going to vote for your party's candidate is a huge, huge deal. And now, today, it has consequences, significant consequences. So the question is, for anybody in any field, it doesn't matter what field you're in, are you going to stand for principle and your moral convictions? Or are you going to say whatever you need to say just to fit in or be accepted as part of a party platform, part of an organizational climate, part of whether it's your employment, whether it's some other separate organization you're a part of? Are you going to stand on your true convictions? And that's what this podcast is all about. It's to provoke us to stand up for truth, righteousness, and holiness no matter what, regardless if you get blackballed, regardless if you get on the blacklist, if you get canceled, shunned, whatever vernacular you want to use. Are you going to stand up for what you believe through the principles of a biblical guideline? So Mia often stood alone. Jesus often stood alone, right? She stood alone as the sole Republican member of the Congressional Black Caucus. She stood alone as the only Black Republican woman in all of Congress in the history of Congress. She stood alone in many rooms across the state of Utah because not only was she a Black person, but she was a Black woman. And in Utah, you don't see a whole lot of that in Utah. She stood alone in her criticism of President Donald Trump. Watch this clip.
Mia Love, she's a CNN political commentator. Mia, let me start with you first. Hearing the former president say it was a, quote, loving crowd on January 6th, I have to tell you, it makes my brain hurt to listen to this all over again. But do you fear that as time passes, he's actually emboldening more attacks?
Well, here's what I believe that the president has done. He believes all of the things that he has said. He's literally convinced himself. He's never apologized to anyone for anything. And the fact that you're hearing that his daughter has to go and try and sue them and get him involved in what was going on, we need to call what it was. What this January 6th attack, what it was. It was one branch of government attack on another branch of government. We saw the video. It wasn't a loving video. It wasn't a loving crowd. Someone lost their lives. The Capitol was destroyed. And you can't convince Americans that what they saw didn't actually happen. I don't know how he can convince himself of this.
Now, after watching a clip like that, one might argue that she didn't have any future aspirations of running for elected office ever again as a Republican, right? She may have needed to change parties because when you are that outspoken about your party's chief leader, CEO, president, the chief, commander, when you're that outspoken, then you're basically putting yourself in a corner. You are isolating yourself from a crowd of people that maybe they were afraid to speak out, but you spoke out boldly, right? And in this time and in this season, even the prophets of old, we have to recognize that when God puts a word on your tongue, when he puts fire in your belly, if you are convicted to say something just like Stephen in the New Testament, you have to be so full of confidence and accuracy through the power of the Holy Spirit when you come out and say something that might be in rebuke to what's normal or what others might seem to be true or what others might consider loyalty or normalcy. And so I respect and admire her ability to be so confident that she, in that moment, could feel like she was speaking the truth in spite of the blackballing that she would experience through the Republican Party. I distinctly remember when Mia Love lost her reelection bid in 2018. I was working as a lobbyist in DC. And most of my lobbying work, I would lobby both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats. Our issue was just to present it before congressional staff. It was to present it before both the Trump and the Obama administration and to just do it in a nonpartisan way. But I vaguely remember when she lost. And I was devastated because she was the only Black woman who was truly blazing a trail for other women like me who were feeling isolated by the other party, right? Our views weren't really lining up, but we didn't see anyone who looked like us on the other side. And so when Mia Love lost her reelection bid, I immediately sensed, well, when will we ever have a replacement for Mia? If she was the only one in the history of Congress and it took her that long to get there, when will we ever have a replacement? And so I too hope, Mia, that you are not the last Republican woman in Congress. I hope that as well. And I believe that you won't be. I thank God for the legacy of your life. I thank God for your determination, your boldness, your willingness just to put everything on the line, right? And sometimes we are the tallest when we stand alone. And that's exactly what she did. So may you rest in peace. God bless Mia's husband, her three children, her extended family. God, I pray that you give them supernatural peace and strength in this moment and in this hour. I appreciate you watching. It's important that you always understand the background, the history, the context of anything that you see concerning public policy in America. There's always so much behind the lines that we cannot see. So thanks for tuning into the Holy Politician podcast. Until next time.